So Timothy Chalamet as Willy Wonka. It's happening, and it's right around the corner. And I'm not here to hate, I'll give it a chance. I was just genuinely wondering, why are we still giving this psychopath more screen time? Willy Wonka, I mean.
Is it raining? Is it snowing?
The original 1971 film was a childhood favorite of mine, but I'm not sure what ever made me think anything about it was normal. I mean, if there ever was a definitive psychopath in film history, it would be either Norman Bates, Patrick Bateman, or Willy Wonka. And at least those first two guys showed you some respect before they, scarred you permanently. This film, on the other hand, has no respect for humanity.
Chocolate! My beautiful chocolate!
Let's walk through some examples, and I'll show you why child services should have been called much sooner.
Any signs that they are slowing?
Let's start with the golden tickets. His golden ticket contest turns the whole world on its head in pursuit of possibly setting foot in the famed chocolate factory. This isn't really his fault, it's just a combination of incredible marketing and artificial scarcity, because God forbid more than 4 kids have their dreams come true. But of course, Mr. Chocolate Man has greater interest in the needs of the people. Combine all the hype with a society consumed with materialism and in the midst of late-stage capitalism, and you get something that seems fairly tame. A Black Friday sale at a Walmart in 2010 was probably just as crazy as this. None of this is dissimilar from the great business moguls of modern times. Willy Wonka gets the rich guy pass. You'll notice more of these jabs from the film toward capitalist ways of thinking, some subtle, and some just me trying to create parallels where there are absolutely none. YouTube Video Essay 101. Okay, all seems fine so far. So let's go to Wonka's character intro then. It's innocent enough with him faking everyone out about his health. It is pretty telling that when everyone thinks that Wonka is an old man, they're all disappointed and consider him worthless. Utilitarianism at its finest. But it was a fake out, and everyone cheers for the virtue of youth. Turns out a steady diet of chocolate and everlasting gobstoppers keeps you in immaculate shape. But what's Wonka's first move when meeting the children for the first time? A bunch of passive-aggressive insults.
My dear boy, how good to see you, and in such fine shape.
What kind of gum you got here?
Charming. Charming. Nicely handled, Baruka. She's a girl who knows where she's going.
Not a great start for the man who supposedly makes dreams come true. When the kids enter the factory, they take off their coats and hand them to a bunch of hands.
Little surprises around every corner, but nothing dangerous.
This man has workers standing by 24/7 to take people's coats. Okay, fine, maybe not too far-fetched. Sounds like something Bezos has on his rocket ships. Wonka then proceeds to gaslight the children into signing a contract which isn't even legible. Not sure what the age of consent is in this fictional universe, but it's nice to see that even in Roald Dahl's wildest imagination, the 1% doesn't really have to stick with the rules.
Wait a minute, what's all that small print there at the bottom? Oh, if you have any problems, dial information. Thank you for calling.
Once the children sign their lives away, he guides everyone into a random room and starts a crowd surge, for no reason. I mean, yeah, his reason is to pull the old "the way we came in is the way forward" trick. Sure, it's cute. But if your goal was to disorient your crowd, you could have just told them to close their eyes, spin around, and count to 10. You know, like a normal person. Instead, you threaten them with asphyxiation. Also, every now and then you'll see what seems like Gene Wilder's contractual demand to threaten the children's lives every 3 minutes. They seem sprinkled in at random times, but I assure you they're deliberate.
Don't lose your head, Augustus. We wouldn't want anyone to lose that. Yet.
Who ever heard of a Snoresberry?
We are the music makers.
Next is the famed chocolate room, which he had to know was going to drive everyone crazy. A room where you can eat anything, and a literal chocolate river. Keep in mind, he only allowed these 4 kids and their guardians into the factory ever. So basically this room was either to shock these kids into doing something dumb, or for him to frolic all day long and eat the candy himself. Maybe Tim Burton had the right idea in attempting to explore the psyche of a child that would grow up to do something like this. Nah. Also, the Oompa Loompas. Not much has to be said here, especially if you've read the original book, which was changed by the author when he realized how racist it actually was. By his own account, Wonka rescued the Oompa Loompas from Loompa Land and brought over the entire population to his factory. I know the white savior archetype is making a comeback nowadays, but it's important to remember one of the pioneers of bringing it into the mainstream. Now comes the boat scene. This scene is what everyone remembers as the "what am I watching" moment from this film. Believe me, the film is full of those, but this one specifically added the psychedelic subgenre to a film otherwise classified as a fun for the whole family feel-good romp.
There's no earthly way of knowing.
He's singing.
Somehow they incorporated a Kubrick-esque trip you the hell out scene into a film about a chocolate factory. And the producers were just like, yeah, sure, makes sense. And get this, the actual kids in the scene did not know Gene Wilder was going to trip out like that. They were genuinely terrified. This is probably in tune with the idea that each decade of film in the late 1900s was defined by a different substance. The 70s was psychedelics, the 80s was coke, and the 90s was hubris in thinking you could make buffed up jocks into compelling movie stars. So given that this film is released in the 70s, I guess it lines up.
From now on, I'm going to pay for your tobacco.
As we progress through the story, you'll also see along with his threats, Wonka puts children in purposely dangerous situations in order to test them.
Don't just stand there, do something!
Help. Police. Murder.
We find out why in the end, which doesn't really make it any better, but like, exploding candy. Really. Unless he has some secret government contract to make those, he knew full well what he was doing there. He's surrounding tempting delicacies with a life-threatening consequence, like a Kinder Egg with a toy inside. Like in the room with the fizzy lifting drinks, he puts an industrial-grade fan in the room with drinks that make you float. I did not see a single other fan in any other room. But the one room where you fly up uncontrollably, that's where he needed ventilation, right? Was he just hoping Charlie was smart enough to know to burp to bring himself down? Was he okay with the non-zero and likely possibility that he would be torn to shreds? These are the questions that should be asked in his psych evaluation. I think now might be a good time for an aside on how much this film passively satirizes capitalism. Let's address your immediate reaction. How can a film about a boy that lives with his parents and grandparents from both sides in a tiny home with little to nothing to eat on a daily basis, who is then chosen to run the most extraordinary entrepreneurship in the world, a chocolate factory, how can that film not inspire hope? That's pulling yourself up by your bootstraps if I've ever seen it. I mean, just listen to how absurd that sounds. It's hard to tell if this is a propaganda piece or just poking fun at how unlikely this kind of social mobility is.
The factory's yours, Charlie. You can move in immediately.
And me?
This sounds like the most aspirational, idealized version of the rags to riches story. The film uses Wonka's hyper-control freak tendencies to show what an anarcho-capitalist business would look like if left to its own devices. Now you may be wondering, is that the correct use of the term anarcho-capitalist? No, but now I can use it in my thumbnail. Now keep in mind, this interpretation does not reflect my opinion on the ideal vehicle for economic prosperity. Rather, I am attempting to point out the perhaps pointed, sinister subtext of a so-called fun for the whole family romp. Now let's speak of the worst offender. The fact that all 5 tickets are found by children was accepted by the world as a coincidence. But it's made pretty clear that that's not the case. Every time a ticket is found, Slugworth is always there to whisper in the lucky winner's ear. Meaning not only is Wonka in control of who gets the tickets, since Slugworth is revealed to be his goon, he made sure that children got all of the tickets. Guess that invisible hand of economics is not so invisible. And you know how he explains it in the end? He says that only a child would run the company in the way that he wanted.
Not a grown-up. A grown-up would want to do everything his own way, not mine.
So we can add fascism to the list of admirable traits.
The danger must be growing, for the rowers keep on rowing!
Look, this video was not meant to be a takedown. I'm not here to ruin your childhood. Timothy Chalamet and Oompa Loompa Hugh Grant are. But we have to process the trauma we were put through in order to better understand the minds of people like this. So that's why starting today, I'm starting my campaign to bring back Mindhunter for a 3rd season with Willy Wonka as the focus. Maybe then we can better process the collective trauma caused by this.